Canada used to sell itself as the polished cousin of the US, the rich country without the mess. But that story is crumbling. Today, the maple leaf economy is faltering, and for millions of Canadians, the dream is becoming the struggle. Houses are unaffordable, jobs are under threat, living costs are climbing, and the tariff war with the US is dragging us down. So, what's really happening? And is there any rescue in sight? Stay with me until the end, because we'll also cover the path back up and the sectors that could lead the recovery. Welcome back to Vorn, where we dig deep into economic stories that affect real people. If you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button, click the bell, and let's get into the heart of Canada's crisis, what caused it, where we stand now, and how we might escape the slump. Let me explain further and start with the economic picture. First up, the big picture. According to recent data from Statistics Canada, Canada's output slipped by around 0.4% in the second quarter of 2025, the largest drop in years outside the pandemic, according to the Statistics Canada. Exports scaled back, business investment pulled back, and employment growth has essentially stalled. From January through August 2025, there was no net increase in payroll employment. In short, growth is weak, the engine is misfiring, and many households feel it. Moving on to jobs and employment, let's talk jobs. It's not just that growth is slow, the risk of job losses is rising. For example, the Bank of Canada warns that Canadian exports have fallen sharply because of U.S. tariffs, and that's translating into weaker hiring in export-oriented firms. An overall loss of jobs has increased drastically over the last 2 years because the small businesses don't have the income they used to have to operate on the scale. They were which workers are most at risk: manufacturing, resource-based industries, steel and aluminum, those tied to U.S. trade. Meanwhile, housing affordability pressures and household debt remain huge headwinds. If people fear losing their job, they cut back on spending, which drags the economy further. Moving on to a very hot topic of housing, cost of living, and immigration. Housing has been a major strain. Prices doubled in many markets over the last decade. Rent soared through the roof. Young people found it harder to move. Rent a place and buying a hose feels like a dream they will never see fulfilling, and this all resulted in misallocation of labor and productivity losses. While I don't have a full citation here, this is widely reported. On the cost of living front, Canada is facing higher prices for many goods, partly because of supply chain and trade disruptions, and partly because of policies that raise production costs. According to some reputable sources, Canada has the highest debt-to-income ration per household in the entire world. That is some scary information. Then there's immigration. Canada is welcoming a lot of newcomers, which in principle is a strength. But if housing is tight, infrastructure stretched, and job growth weak, the benefit may be watered down. The challenge is how to integrate and create opportunities rather than simply add numbers. Then comes the topic which is very popular in the news nowadays and has many Canadians scared: the trade and tariff war with the U.S. This is a major contributor to the crumbling effect on the overall economy. USA is Canada's largest export market. Roughly 3/4 of Canadian merchandise exports go there, according to Statistics Canada. When the U.S. imposed high tariffs on Canadian steel, aluminum, and autos, the ripple effects hit Canada hard. Manufacturing output dropped, wholesalers slowed, investment pulled back. Tariffs raise input costs, create uncertainty for businesses, and make Canada less competitive. One analysis estimates a 25% tariff could shrink Canada's GDP by 2.6% and cost households almost $2,000 each in expenses and costs. In short, Canada's deep dependence on the U.S. trade ecosystem is now a vulnerability. Moving on to evaluate what's broken at the foundation. Let's zoom out. and see what's been the problem. Sluggish investment. Canada lags in business investment and R&D compared to peers, meaning fewer upgrades, less productivity. No investment in newer technology. The infrastructure in major cities like roads and railway systems still feels like it's from 50 years ago and has been redeveloped to keep up with the modern world. If y'all travel to Asia in countries like China and Singapore, then return to Canada, you will immediately feel like you're back in old, slow, and badly run railways and roads. Overdependence on one market and one resource base. The U.S. is still dominant for exports. When that relationship is strained, we're exposed. Housing and debt burden. With high household debt and housing costs, many Canadians have less flexibility. As I mentioned earlier, immigration and integration, bringing people in is one thing. Giving them jobs, training, and locations where they can thrive is another, which don't seem to go hand in hand with each other. Signs of hope in sectors that could lead recovery. But this isn't all doom and gloom. There are paths forward. Diversify export markets. The current government announced a target to double non-U.S. exports in the next decade to a big name like China, according to AP News. Invest in technology, clean energy, and infrastructure. These sectors can create jobs, raise productivity, and reduce dependency on narrow resource sectors. Housing construction reform. If we can build faster, more affordably, get younger workers moving to productive locations, we unlock labor and productivity gains, and things could move at a much faster pace. Workforce upskilling and immigration integration. If newcomers land in industries where there are jobs and we invest in lifelong training, this can be a major bonus, not a burden, only if it's done accordingly. Internal trade and regulatory reform. Removing provincial barriers, boosting internal portability of goods and people will help unlock growth. The sectors to watch for this are technology, AI, digital services. Canada has strong potential here with a good education base and quality of life. Clean tech mineral extraction for batteries, critical minerals. With global transition to green energy, Canada's resource base can be repurposed into higher value chains. Advanced manufacturing, especially where we can sell to global markets beyond the U.S. If we can reposition away from simple commodity exports to higher value manufacturing, that's a win. A small, humble suggestion from my side would be for the government and business leader, if the focus on these points, it can accelerate the process of recovery towards the betterment. Accelerate trade negotiations and open up new markets. Reduce shock from U.S. tariffs and minimize the dependability on USA alone. Incentivize business investment and R&D tax credits, regulatory certainty, faster infrastructure approvals. Unlock housing, zoning reforms, faster approvals, reduce cost of building. Strategic immigration, match skills to demand, invest in regional settlement where jobs are. Not just letting in a bunch of people with nowhere to stay and no jobs. Workforce training, adapt to automation, AI, green economy, internal reforms, remove provincial barriers, streamline inter-province trade, improve logistic infrastructure. These aren't overnight fixes, but they move the needle. And last, the conclusion and call to action. To wrap up, Canada is at a crossroads. The story of being the better cousin to the U.S. is fading. Houses are too expensive, jobs are no longer guaranteed, trade tensions are real. But the crisis is also an opportunity. With the right moves, Canada can rebuild, reinvent, and come out the other side stronger. The question is, will it act in time? What do you think? Are these problems temporary shock waves or signs of deep structural shifts? What sectors do you believe will lead Canada out of this slump? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you found value in this video, please give it a like. Share it with someone who cares about Canada's future and subscribe for more deep dives like this. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.